I would like to call to order the July 16th, 2024 meeting of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to those in attendance, Township staff, and my fellow commissioners. Just a friendly reminder at this time for everyone to silence your devices. Mr. Peters, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Here.
Mr. Gearing?
Here.
Ms. McMullen?
Here.
Mr. Westfall?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Westfall? Mr. Gehring?
Westfall, Mr. Wilson.
Wilson.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And on the agenda, we had a presentation of minutes that is going to occur next month. Next, we would like to welcome members of the public to address the Zoning Commission with any items on tonight's agenda. However, if you are planning to speak during one of the public hearings, we will invite you to the podium to speak during that respective hearing. So at this time, for the final development plan or any other items, is there anyone who wishes to speak? And I do know we have Mike Franklin, you just signed in. So if you want to come to the podium, that would be great.
Hello,
And for the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Michael Franklin, 9330 Pippin Road, 45231. My biggest concern is I'm the property right next door to what's going on, and I'm just wondering how close is the driveway going to be to my property line? And will there be live vegetation, a little blockage, so I'm not looking right over there? And I mean, if someone could tell me how many feet away from my property line, that'd be nice to know.
Okay, we will ask that question.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay. So next on our agenda is a final development plan. It is for case CZC 24-5, which is a final development plan for Vivera Northbrook located at 9328 Pippin Road. And Mr. Peters, do you have a presentation?
I do. Okay, so tonight we're hearing a final development plan, CZC 24-5 for 9328 Pippin Road. The parcel numbers are listed on the screen and in the packet. The zoning district was R6 urban residential, but it will now be PDM, Plan Development Mixed. The applicant is Dinsmore and the property owner is Joe Morris. On February 2nd, 2024, Colerain Township Planning and Zoning staff met with an applicant of the proposed Vivera Northbrook Community Development to discuss the standard operating procedures of the Zoning Commission as well as any potential revisions prior to the public hearing. On April 8th, 2024, the preliminary development plan was passed by the Colerain Township zoning resolution and subsequently passed by the Colerain Township Board of Trustees, and that occurred on May 14th, 2024. If you turn your attention to the screen, we have the 5 parcels that are involved in the rezoning and the plan development for this site for Vivera Northbrook. They're listed 1 through 5 in no particular order. Here is a satellite aerial imagery of the property and the 5 parcels. The building will sit about on the property line between all the parcels. So they'll all be involved in this phase 1. I understand there may be phases down the line with other buildings, but the one that's being proposed for this final development plan is one that sits at or near that middle property line. And that's illustrated in this image, which it transposes the building outline over the 5 current parcels. So if you see where that imaginary line was from the previous pictures, you can see that it is around the side of the building. The parking will be north of there in this picture. And the driveway will be toward the top of all the parcels that they had. Where you see where number 4 is, that'll be about the place the driveway's at. So we have an elevation image of what the east elevation of this property will look like. And we have elevation of the west side of the property. In this image, we have the south on the top and the north on the bottom. So it shows consistent design throughout the building. This is a rendering of what the building would look like. And we have a side profile, corner profile of what the building will look like. Inside of your packet, you also have floor plans. You have a lighting plan. But I'm highlighting for the audience and for the recording of this hearing what the site will look like. So this is a parking plan, and that's also in your packet. It's a monument-style sign. It has the address. It has assisted living. It has a light use of colors, and the 4 colors with the hex codes are listed here. This is also listed in your packet, and it shows the scale with a person standing next to it. It's a not very intense site for the area, and it's a good site for residential areas in staff's opinion. Then on the side, we just have some elements of the property and some amenities that will exist upon the property. We have the fact that it's estimated to bring 55 new jobs and it's a $50 million investment. So the applicable zoning documents, and regarding the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the relevant and pertinent materials for this case can be found in the housing section, page 17, and the public health section, page 34, and land use, which is 46, 47. When we look at the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, it's staff's opinion that it's consistent with these plans. These plans are also strongly consistent with the plan development that was previously passed. So the deviations that will occur from that plan development are listed on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and go through them. The overall footprint of the building has increased by 702 square feet. The orientation of the building flipped, so the front entrance of the building is now facing south. Accordingly, the orientation of the gazebo, walking paths, service access road, and dumpster, they were all mirrored as well to reflect the change in orientation of the building, but otherwise the site will remain the same. The proposed detention basin has been reduced in overall size. Access to the project off of Pippin Road has shifted to the south as recommended by the approved traffic access study, with additional details provided for Pippin Road improvements. The hammerhead turnaround was removed and additional parking has been added along the east and west side of the building. The parking stalls previously located in the center of the parking lot have been removed. A generator pad was also added to the north of the proposed dumpster location. So even with those minor changes, staff finds the development plan for Vivera Northbrook substantially complies with the spirit and intent of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and also the approved preliminary development plan and the requirements of the Colerain Township zoning resolution, and for that reason, staff recommendation on this case is approval. Ms. McMullen?
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Sorry, I turned my mic off while I was fumbling through papers. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Yes, can you answer the gentleman's question about the driveway and the proximity of the driveway to any property line?
Without knowing exactly where he lives, that's not something I can answer. The applicant could answer, or if he wanted to show me on a map, I can kind of piece it together for you. Yeah, but the applicant, it would be more appropriate if they answered, I believe. But just to show everyone where the driveway is, if you look right here where the mouse is moving, since I was not able with technical difficulties to plug in my computer, I don't have a laser pointer, so you'll just have to kind of watch that little mouse, but it's on the left side there where it says private drive in the packet, and it's gonna curve up a little bit.
It's the first house to the north,
Okay.
under the white box.
So I'd like to hear from the applicant too, if they can come to the podium and be ready to answer
Yep.
questions, and whoever that is.
Yep, so we have Michael Huber, Bill Skeba, and Jared Burgess signed in. Did I have that right? Okay,
Yep.
and
Hi.
if you could State your name and address for the
Yeah.
record, please.
Mike Huber, attorney with the law firm of Dinsmore and Scholl, 255 East 5th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd like to start out by thanking Commission for having us and then thanking staff for their wonderful presentation. Regarding the gentleman's question, as noted in the deviations, the driveway is actually a bit south from where it's depicted right there. That's one of the deviations there. Without knowing the gentleman's exact address, we would not want to speculate as
His
to.
address is 9330 Pippin.
93.
Can you go to the screen and point to where the driveway will be?
No.
Oh, wow.
Where's the current house? It's right there about where your pin is? Yeah. So the driveway's right there, and then there's a garage, I think, right to the north of that. So that, the new drive's gonna kind of go on that.
Is it gonna be south of the garage or north of that old garage? Can you answer that? That gives me a real good detail.
Well,
If it's north of the garage.
so
south
sir,
of the
sir,
garage. Oops, sorry.
yeah, it didn't.
Bill Skiba, 7965 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. I'm the civil engineer of record. It's good to see you all again. The driveway is per review with Hamilton County for our traffic access. In order to achieve proper sight distance turning in and out, the driveway is going to be located approximately where that existing driveway to the single-family residence is, and that will be south of that existing garage.
So do you know from the PDP to now, how many feet difference? How far south did it shift?
I would say approximately between 50 and 100 feet, but I would have to cite that back in our records, and I can most certainly follow up with email or written correspondence to confirm that specific distance.
So just so it's clear, you have at our places, I guess, a revised site plan illustrating, I think, that new driveway.
I believe what you have in front of you would reflect that,
And
yes.
as I look at the drawing, I see it is indeed between the existing, I guess that's a garage, it has an existing building of approximately, it doesn't tell us how many square feet, but the height of 16 feet. I guess that's the garage? I'm asking.
I would have to get eyes on specifically what you're looking at, if you don't mind if
There
I
you go.
approach.
Come on up. Okay. So now that you've kind of taken a look at what I'm looking at, so it's between, as illustrated on this particular plan, it's between an existing garage and the existing home, correct?
That is correct.
And it measures approximately 24 feet of
That is correct.
pavement? Okay. All right. And the gentleman who spoke is to the north of the garage, is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I have a question. You've added 702 square feet to the drawing, but you've lowered the requirements for stormwater. Can you explain that to me?
And most certainly. So with the preliminary nature of our design, we haven't commenced final site civils at the stage of PDP. Now for FDP, we provided more detailed stormwater analysis, and through doing that, we were able to tighten up our requirements. We fully intend to meet requirements as per Hamilton County and per the Ohio EPA for both quantity and quality.
You running for political office?
And
Can you just answer the question? Okay.
Are you looking? No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Why was it made smaller? Because the requirements only required it to be that.
That is correct.
So just getting back to the driveway, with its new location from the property line that I assume this gentleman who spoke earlier shares with the proposed site property line, can you gentlemen explain about how far that will be from, I guess that'd be the northern pavement to the property line? So the northern edge of the 24 feet to the property line.
Mr. Bachman, I apologize. I don't have that specific dimension offhand right now, but that is certainly something I can hop into our software, get a very quick dimension on that, and follow up
Can you
tomorrow.
give us an estimate within 5 to 10 feet?
Could you pull the site plan back up on the screen, please?
And Mr. Peters, just to ask, do you have a copy of the paper plans in front of us?
That was brought in this evening, so
Is
it's,
it?
yeah, I do. These are these are to be recorded. So that's what.
Right, I was just hoping to have it on the screen so everyone in the room
No,
could see.
showing the new driveway, it's pretty late development, I believe.
I would say approximately between 100 and 125 feet.
Okay. And that's significantly moved from the previous plan, correct?
Yeah, most certainly. And the reason for that was, at the location as depicted on the screen, we were not meeting proper site visibility requirements. So turning out of there, you wouldn't be able to see who's coming over the hill.
For Pippin Road.
For Pippin Road, correct. We set it at a low point, so we wanted to better even out where that's located so we can achieve what would be required for being able to see turning out of that
I
driveway.
understand. So is Hamilton County Engineer's Office reviewed that, and are they acceptable to your modification?
We have an approved traffic study, and we've worked with Jeff Newby on that.
Okay, great.
And another question about the detention basin. With the Mill Creek watershed being just behind that, there's no intent of changing that stream or the flow of the water that's kind of hidden in the woods.
So we will be completing a nationwide permit through the Army Corps for any potential impacts with under half an acre to wetlands and streams on site. We're going through that permitting process, and in addition to that, we'll be permitting through the Ohio EPA for our NOI for disturbance on site.
Okay.
And I'm not seeing, maybe it's there and I'm just not reading it, because I was just handed these tonight. I'm not seeing any barriers, fencing, or anything around the retention basin. Are there any plans to do that?
If that's a requirement, I defer to the owner, but I think most certainly that's something that we would consider to add if it's something that y'all would make conditional to what we're looking at today.
Yeah, I'm concerned for the kids. There's a playground not too far from there, and I'm concerned that the kids would see that as a fun place to be until the water starts rising.
Okay.
So could you give us some insights while the building was flipped? And I understand you went from a preliminary engineering to finishing or into more final engineering, but that's a pretty significant modification of flipping the building 180 degrees. Can you guys explain kind of what happened in that design process, or
Yes, of
what
course.
you came across?
Jonathan Payne, 1107 Hamlet Forest, the Grange.
I'm sorry,
Kentucky.
can you state your name one more time? I missed it.
Yes, Jonathan Payne.
Okay, thank you.
Can you state your address as well?
Yeah, 1107 Hamlet Forest, LaGrange, Kentucky. So the whole idea between flipping it was obviously where the building is. Would be positioned in a low spot, as it's indicated on that print right now. So to give better visibility as you come down that driveway and more aesthetics, we flipped it to the north so that one, we don't have to deal with the elevational change as much, but also it gives that nice appeal as you drive down that driveway. You'll see in the front of the building a little bit better. So that was the whole idea behind that change.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. McMullen, may I
Yes.
ask a question? Just to answer the neighbor, Mr. Franklin's second question was landscaping in between the new drive and his property. What, is there a plan? What's the plan for that?
So I believe we submitted this part of our FDP, a landscaping plan. Is that something we might be able to?
Sorry, you're going too fast for my brain.
Sorry, I apologize. I am a quick speaker. I apologize about that. We submitted a landscape plan as part of our final development plan, and I believe that should show some landscaping there.
That's not something I have on this slideshow, and unfortunately, because of the technical difficulty, I can't pull it up.
Well, actually, it doesn't show any landscape, it just shows grass.
Okay. So if it was a condition for barrier buffer in between the driveway and the adjacent property, that's certainly something we would consider.
Consider as a condition?
Correct. I don't believe that was part of the base zone code or part of our modified zoning ordinance, but if it was something that y'all would require contingent upon our approval, that would be something we would consider.
A question for Mr. Peters. When we approved the PDP, there was a condition added for remediation of the Phase 2 lot. I did not see that as a condition in the PDP, but there was one, I'm sorry, FDP, but there was one that kind of seemed like it might be hinting towards remediation.
So, to my understanding, as somebody who's new to this board, the conditions of the PDP carry forward to the FDP, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, if it was a condition of the PDP and it's not indicated on the FDP, it can become a condition of the FDP.
So the one that came close was number 4, that any part of the planned development not used for structures, parking, loading areas, or streets shall be landscaped or otherwise improved, or if approved by zoning commission, left in its natural state. That's the only one that really came close to what my request was for the PDP for the Phase 2 lot to have the dilapidated buildings.
Yeah, I apologize. In the future, I'll be part of the PDP process when I do an FDP, but since I wasn't for this one case, then I would just refer to the board for any conditions that you'd like to place upon the applicant on this case.
Okay.
Have the final plans been drawn up for the building itself?
So as of right now, we're on about 30% of the actual building layout. Obviously, once we get that up to 95, that's typically when we see the set in stone locations of everything. But the amenities and the room counts aren't going to change within that.
And has the fire department been brought into this process?
I'd have to double check on that. That typically goes through my architects and engineers on that front. But I can definitely follow up with you on that and get you an answer.
Thank you.
While you're there, I assume you're the architect from the way you're answering. Just walk me through a typical room. I see the entrance off the corridor, the interior corridor. That goes to X, and I don't see any furniture. So is that the bedroom, or is that like a living room? Walk me through what I'm seeing there in the 3 rooms.
Yeah,
The
so
typical.
I'm actually the general contractor for this.
Okay, great.
But I can, if you don't mind me approaching.
Sure. So here's a typical.
Yeah, so typically you would have a living room area right here, and your bedroom to one side, down here with
And then is it bathroom?
the bathroom.
Okay. So the typical room, for those in the audience who weren't privy to that, would be you come into a living room type room. You then have a bedroom, which is cordoned off as its own room, and then a bathroom. So it's in essence 3 rooms. Okay, thank you.
And then since I like to pick on Phase 2, I just want to ask real quick, and you may not have the answer, and that's fine because it's more a rhetorical question, but maintenance of that Phase 2 lot is slacking. Since our meeting April 8th to today, the grass has only been cut 1 time. So I just want to ensure that if we approve this tonight, that starting tomorrow, you're taking on ownership of maintaining that lot until, if my commissioners put the condition on for remediation of that lot, that you tidy it up.
Yep, yeah, we'll make sure to maintain the lot. I apologize for any lacking maintenance to this point.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you. All right, so I was jotting down some notes as we were having a conversation. So it seemed like there were 3 points of conditions that came up. So the first was to add back in the Phase 2 remediation of the lot. There was the fencing or barrier around the detention basin, and then a landscape buffer on the north side of the driveway. So if the motion that is made is favorable. If whoever makes that motion would like to include those, that would be great. So would anybody like to make a motion?
I motion that we accept the plans as presented with the 3 modifications that were just detailed.
So, Mr. Peters, the 9th condition would be for Phase 2, that area to have the remediation done at the same time as Phase 1?
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Does remediation mean the removal of all existing buildings?
So when we discussed the PDP, it was the farmer's market stand and the garage. You guys were up in the air on what was happening with the house.
Right.
Just to point out, the house now has ivy going all the way up to the roof line. So you'd make me happy if you just brought the building down.
I think we should say that. Is the building a part of the plan, the home? Is its use?
No, there's no use to continue
Looks
use of
horrible.
those buildings. And we would just ask that any condition on remediation be clearly defined to the actions that we would like to take. Obviously, remediation can be a very broad term when you start talking in the environmental realm. So we just want to make sure that we're clearly understanding what goals are set out there. Thank you.
Makes sense.
So I think there's a barn in the back as well, right? There's garage, pole barn, house, and then barn.
So can we say removal of any structures?
And he wants it to be specific, so we will go specific.
Yeah, we're fine removing the structures. All the
Structures,
structures
okay.
there.
So would you like to restate remediation?
Sure. I motion that we approve the plan as presented with the following modifications. The Phase 2 removal of the structures on the property,
The fencing or barrier?
fencing around or other barrier around the water basin. And third, to develop a landscape buffer on the north side of the driveway.
And would anyone like to second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Mr. Peters, do you have those, or do you need me
I
to
have it
repeat
now.
it for you? Okay.
So for all of us, there were some comments that were in our minutes, or I'm sorry, in our packets. Are those all part of this also, those 9? As I'm looking, or those were deviations?
So it's the 8, so number 9 becomes the removal of the buildings. Number 10 becomes the fencing around the detention basin.
So there are 11 conditions of approval.
It will be 11
Correct.
now.
Can you then, Mr. Peters, talk through what those first 9 are so everyone in the audience knows what's going on?
It sounds like Ms. McMullen has them in front of her. I don't have them pulled up. If you go a little quicker.
Yeah, I think we're talking about 9 conditions that we've not really talked about, so I think we should, for the record, explain what those are.
All right, so the approval criteria is as follows. Appropriate arrangements with the applicant have been made to ensure the accomplishment of the public improvements and reservation of common open space as indicated on the preliminary development plan and final development plan. If deemed necessary, the Board of Trustees, during the preliminary development plan approval process, this assurance may require that the Board of Trustees require a bond to ensure the successful and proper completion of such improvements. Number 2, the proposed detail FDP for an individual section of the overall PD district is consistent in contents, meaning building location, as applicable land uses, densities and intensities, yard requirements, and area and frontage requirement with the approved preliminary development plan, the Colerain Township land use plan, and the comprehensive plan. This is number 3, each individual phase of development can exist as an independent unit that is capable of creating an environment of sustained desirability and stability, or that adequate assurance be provided that such objective can be obtained, that any part of the planned development not used for structures, parking, and loading areas or streets shall be landscaped or otherwise improved, or if approved by the zoning commission, left in its natural state. Number 5, that any exception to the design standards provided in the PD district is warranted, that the design and amenities incorporated in the detailed final development plan, that the internal streets and thoroughfares proposed are suitable and adequate to accommodate the anticipated traffic within and through the development. Number 7, that the detailed FDP is consistent with the intent and purpose of Article 1 of this resolution. Number 8 is the development plan has been transmitted to all other agencies and departments charged with responsibility of review. Then number 9 will become the removal of the buildings on the property. Number 10 is the fencing and/or barrier around the detention basin, and 11 is the landscape buffer on the north side of the driveway.
Got it.
Thank you.
I need a raise.
Thank you.
And just for the record, all those first 8 that you read, those are directly out of the zoning resolution under approval of FDPs. So they're not specific to this particular project, but in general, they apply to everyone. And then you've added those other conditions.
All right, so before us, we had a motion and a second to approve with the 3 additional conditions added. Mr. Peters, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're done.
All right, so that brings us to our first of 2 public hearings. The first is case CZC 24-6, a major modification to the final development plan for Jeff Weiler Nissan located at 8640 Colerain Avenue. And Mr. Peters, do you have a presentation, please?
I do. So case number 2 tonight is CZC-24-6. This is for 8640 Colerain Avenue. It's a major modification to a final development plan. The parcel number is listed on the screen and in the packet. It's a PDB, a planned development business. Jim Watson is the applicant and DWSB LLC is the property owner. Rezoning, this property is proposed to be rezoned from B2 to PDB. There's an existing PDB planned business development which is located at 8680 Colerain Avenue, which is Jeff Weiler Nissan, and this is adjacent to that. You'll see later there is one family-owned car dealership wedged in the middle of that, but basically they're combining this B2 parcel into that PDB. The original final development plan was approved February 14th, 1968 by the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners. It does not appear to have been modified since then. Original conditions from 1968 are listed in the packet. And this specific parcel was a 0.42 acre parcel, and for many years it contained a Suzuki dealership. The site was raised in 2022 and is currently vacant. The proposal includes a 3,750 square foot automated car wash with at least 13 self-service vacuum stations. Layout can stack at least 20 vehicles without impeding traffic on Sovereign Drive. Normal hours will follow the Nissan schedule of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and the landscaping and signing proposals conform to the township's requirements. So this is aerial imagery of the property. The light blue is showing the car wash, and then everything surrounding the car wash, except for what's directly north of it, is Jeff Weiler Nissan. So you can see the cars behind, that's obviously Nissan. The big building's Nissan, but there's a smaller building here that's 8648 that is not owned by Jeff Weiler Nissan. It will be surrounded by 3 sides, on 3 sides by Jeff Weiler Nissan. You'll see a couple conditions to that effect later, but this is just to show you where the parcel for the car wash is relative to the rest of the site. The car wash is not really going to be Jeff Weiler Nissan car wash. It's going to feel like more of an independent business. This is a rendering of what the car wash will look like. It shows windows at the top, it shows the facade, and how it will be faced in some of the landscaping. So this is another map view that shows some of the details, and this was included within your packet. And although it may be hard to see, this shows the car wash, and we're on Adobe PDF, so bear with me. Okay, so if you can see the building near the top where the mouse is moving, just north of there is that little family-owned car dealership. And then there's kind of the circulation of how the car wash traffic will flow. It's pretty typical. The concern is obviously in everybody's mind that car washes on hot days tend to back up traffic around them. So the ability to stack up 20 cars is definitely a plus here. This is the landscaping plan. This shows the way that the site will be landscaped. I spoke with the applicant on the phone and let them know our requirements for signage and landscaping, and they were very open to making the site something that would be great on that corner. So I won't read this, but listed upon the screen is the comprehensive plan, what we look at within the comprehensive plan to decide whether or not this is a great idea for a major modification of the site. So land use findings, land use analysis, and strategies and initiatives of the comprehensive plan. So staff findings, based on the proposed site plan, the applicant's submittal letter, staff's interpretation of the zoning resolution, review criteria, and approval criteria, comprehensive plan, staff finds that the major modification of the final development plan is consistent with the goals of the governing zoning documents that exist for the township. However, staff finds that the business owned by DWSB LLC, Jeff Weiler Nissan, completely surrounding 8648 Colerain Avenue on 3 sides is concerning. To ensure the business operations at that location are not impeded upon, the intensity of the union of parcels owned by DWSB LLC into the same plan development should be minimized. For that reason, staff would like references of Nissan or any future specific automotive dealer to be absent from 8640 Colerain Avenue. The proposed car wash and the automotive sales and operations that are now known as Nissan should appear independent so long as 8648 Colerain Avenue is not part of this plan development. Staff recommends approval of the plan development with a few small conditions. The facade massing should be required along both north and south. We don't like big blank walls on Colerain Avenue for the new structure. Both facades shall incorporate one or more of the following every 40 feet, and it lists some options that the applicant has. That a ground-mounted sign be a monument-style sign with no reference to any specific car brand. The ground-mounted monument sign should be no taller than 8 feet with a stone or masonry base, and the base shall be landscaped with 5-foot landscaping radius surrounding the sign. The justification there is these are the sign standards we're moving toward in the future, so I didn't want to place outdated sign standards on what will be the newest development in the township when it's built. Relocation of the trash enclosure for the car wash to be at least 25 feet from all property lines, and that was thinking of that little family-owned car dealership that's wedged on 3 sides. The applicant had proposed it being 15 feet from their property line. I just wanted to give them an extra 10 feet. Car wash, trash can be odorous, and I just wanted to do that to have a little bit more of a buffer. And no references to specific automotive brands, including Nissan, should be placed anywhere upon the site. Ms. McMullen?
Thank you. Commissioners, before we open our public hearing, anyone have any initial questions for staff?
Yeah, why do we want to eliminate the reference to Nissan on this property?
Well, just to speak plainly, if you own that car dealership that isn't affiliated with Jeff Weiler or Nissan, and on 3 sides of you had Nissan logos everywhere, it would really feel like you were squeezed in. But if we do a car wash that is explicitly not Nissan, and then we have the used car dealership, and then we have Jeff Weiler Nissan, it's more of a natural flow that you'd see somewhere without feeling like they were on Jeff Weiler Nissan property.
Okay, my concern follows this. We have a car wash south on Colerain Avenue. We've got a car wash on Colerain Avenue, Mike's Car Wash. We have a car wash we're talking about putting in up at, Stone Creek. How many car washes can the area sustain?
The developer feels like the business will be successful.
Yeah, that's it. And the issue becomes that if this one is not sustainable, if we remove all references to Jeff Weiler Nissan, does that, well, obviously it severely limits what Jeff Weiler can do with that property if in fact it doesn't take.
Which would then require another amendment to the FDP.
Yeah, it would require coming back for another amendment, no question about it.
Right.
I will just note the applicant did not have a problem, at least the one I spoke with. If there is concern about that, I'd like them to share that, but they were perfect.
I just bring it up for the rest of the commissioners
Okay.
to consider. It seems to me that we should, and this is just me speaking, if it doesn't take, allow them to expand, or if they want to make it a car wash just for their customers, to allow that to happen and more, facilitate that in an easier method, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
I tend to fall on the side of Mr. Peters, where we have this small independent business that is surrounded by a big competitor. And if we allow Nissan on that other property, then we're taking a chance on smothering out that independent dealership.
If we could, I'd like to just hear from the applicant, their thoughts on it. I don't understand, well, we just don't know the business opportunities here. Will Nissan be a silent owner? Are they a total owner? Is this a sale? I think that would help us in terms of making that decision, so.
Yep, so why don't we go ahead and open our public hearing? So if we could have a motion and a second to do so.
I make a motion that we open the public hearing.
I'll second
And Mr. Peters, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
it. Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. All right, so we will start with the applicant. So,
You want to swear in all the witnesses?
yes, please.
If I could have your attention, anyone that would like to speak during this public hearing, if you would stand and hold up your right hand, so we can swear you in.
Let me point out that the attorney representing the parties is not sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you,
please,
Madam Chairman. My name is Tim Burke from the Manley Burke Law Firm. I'll be very brief. I want to introduce to you the three people who are here to answer what questions may come from the commission. And that's Paul Reaney, who is the Director of Operations for the Weiler interests. And you may want to hear from him first, simply to respond to the question that you've already been addressing. Also with us is Jim Watson from McGill Smith, who has been the applicant on this project, and Andrew Wolf, one of the architects on the project, can address questions around the condition regarding the architecture. The only additional point that I would make is that in Imagine Colerain, this area of Colerain Avenue between Compton Road and Cross County Highway is intended to be rebranded as an automotive center. And while what's proposed on this corner is not another automobile dealership, it is something that certainly relates to automobile dealerships and the interests of people to keep their cars clean. So I think this fits in well with what Imagine Colerain saw as appropriate in the site. With that, I'd like to ask Paul Reaney to come up and address the issue about whether or not the Nissan name should be on the car wash.
How are you? Paul Rainey, it's 401 Milford Parkway, Milford, Ohio, 45150.
thank you.
So I guess the question is at least for right now and for as long as the foreseeable future, we have no interest in branding that site with a car wash that says anything related to any of the dealerships, including Nissan, that it will be adjacent to. The other thing that I think addressing is the serviceability. I mean, currently we have a Nissan dealership, we have a Honda dealership. I'm sure you all know that we're building a Kia dealership on the old Colerain Bowl site. I mean, if we do nothing but service our own clients through that, new and everybody we sell to, that's a huge volume that we're gonna run through ourselves. So sustainable business, even if we divorce every bit of the public out of it, this business sustains itself just with, internally with what we've got. I hope that answers the question.
So is the intent, when the Kia dealership opens, that you're driving down Colerain to come to this car wash to take those cars there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm still not clear. So, right now, DWSB LLC owns the property.
Correct.
Will DWSB LLC continue on the property for the new use?
Yes.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is
it's
a,
not
this is a ground lease, is that
Yes.
correct? It's a ground lease with the new,
Yes.
you know, is Nissan involved in the dealings, the business? In other words, will they own a percentage of the business? So it is truly just arm's length,
Truly separate.
truly separate, truly arm's length?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If it fails, it fails. It's
Fails,
all a
fails.
function of the ground lease. However, you get paid, you don't get paid, so on and so forth.
Correct.
You have no, as you understand, you have no money in this deal.
Correct.
Okay. So you're totally divorced from it.
It's two separate.
it's arm's length.
Two totally separate things.
And the name Wild Water Car Wash, is that real or is that
I
real?
understood it.
Is that,
For the most part, yes, it's real. It was very difficult coming up and finding a trademark name that wasn't already in use nationally.
okay.
There was one of like 6 we could find.
Is this
and
a
that was
franchise then, or this is
No.
this is a total standalone
Total standalone.
entrepreneur
Correct.
who's trying to do a car wash?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And my question mainly goes around the rezoning. Why are we moving to a PDB when a B2 is sufficient for a car wash? Other than they already have it, but we're not combining parcels with the existing PDBs. So why is there the change?
The understanding that I had is they wanted to just pull it into their PD.
Well, and also, guys, look at the site plan. Not only is the gray parcel a piece of the equation, but you're also using additional parcels to the whatever direction that would be, to
So
the
are
east.
all becoming one?
As far as what was
All
out,
parcels becoming one?
defer to the applicant.
Not all of them.
We have discussed with Mr. Watson the consolidation of all of those lots into the PD together. So you wouldn't continue to have those, but as Mr. Bachman correctly stated, the building does extend into the next parcel, and that's why that it couldn't remain on the B2. I actually asked the same question originally.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, go ahead.
The only other issue that I think still maybe is on the table is Mr. Peters mentioned about the issue of the architecture and the blank wall, and frankly, I just haven't seen, except this, the elevation, and I'm not sure. This is the elevation looking, if I'm driving north on Colerain, I would see, correct? On Sovereign? With the parking?
That's the one that has the kind of pergola things on the top for the car wash, for the vacuums, excuse me.
That's what this
That would be
elevation
if you're
is.
driving north.
And
The
so-
other one is if you're driving south,
Right.
you would see portions of the wall and there's no design on the wall, it's just a blank wall.
So let's talk about that. Can we have the architect then?
Certainly.
This is Andrew Wolf.
Thank you.
277 Victoria Avenue, Cincinnati 45208, architecture.
So hearing the recommendation from staff, what are your thoughts on the modification of that wall? Or that elevation?
We're certainly open to modifications. They obviously had to do it on Kia to come along. Certainly the backside of the building is a very wide expanse with nothing in it. So whether it's changing material, whether it's stone up or changing the color of the AC panels, it's we need to.
Can I add something? We did have this discussion with Kia, we allowed a color change, but I think since we are doing a major modification here, I had listed either significant material changes or significant architectural design features, which is above and beyond what standardly would have been required for Kia. Just to make it more high-quality design due to some of the nature of going to a planned development.
Well, so Mr. Wolf is Wolf, correct? The architect, Mr. Wolf. So can you explain, we see I'm gonna show you your own work here. So you see, on the 30-foot elevation here, we start seeing the wrap of the faux rock and I'm not sure what the black material is. Right.
It's basically a panel, it's a metal panel.
Metal panel. Is your intent to have that on the 125-foot wall? Would be the north
Yes,
wall?
that wraps, the stone wainscot wraps the entire building as does the metal panel.
Okay.
So
So you are treating all four sides as the same? That was one of the issues that we talked about too, of trying to do that. So do you want something above and beyond that?
Well, that's a vertical. We look at horizontally 60 feet. If you're larger than 60 feet, you're supposed to have a 20-foot offset every 40 feet. So we don't look at the way up the wall, which is great that they're doing the facade at the bottom of the stone. We just don't want a 60-foot long wall that looks exactly the same.
So he could put a piering of that faux
Yeah, you
rock
could
or
put
something?
but significant material change or significant architecture feature, some sort of wooden architecture feature going up the wall that's 2 feet wide, or, 20 feet wide? 20 feet wide every 40 feet.
One question we've always had whenever we do anything along Colerain Avenue is stormwater retention. I see we have a tank that we're going to bury in the ground for this one. Where does that exit? Where does it go to?
Jim Watson will take that one.
Good evening. Good to see you.
Hi,
again.
Mr. Watson.
The stormwater, at present, the former Suzuki site had a stormwater connection to the system in Colerain Avenue. And what we plan to do is utilize that stub that comes into the property and discharge our tank into that 8-inch pipe that is then conveyed through the Colerain Avenue. We're gonna the site generally runs off to the east, away from Colerain, and we're gonna change that. So we're gonna significantly detain stormwater in that tank. The tank's oversized. And then we're gonna pump it up to Colerain. So we'll increase the volume of runoff into Colerain, but we'll reduce the rate. And then to the east, we'll reduce both the volume and the rate just by virtue of taking watershed away from that area.
Yeah.
And then besides that, we've got, at present, it's all paved. And we'll be adding
Yeah,
decent
additional.
grass now.
That's-
Mr. Watson, can you state your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry, James Watson, McGill Smith Puncheon, 3700 Park 42 Drive, Cincinnati, 45241.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
Be happy to take any other questions.
None? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we need a motion to, well, first let me ask, is anybody from the audience wishing to speak? Okay. So we do need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second. Mr. Peters? or roll
Mr.
call?
Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to make a motion? And Mr. Peters, just as a point of clarity, for the 120-foot wall, do you need us to make a condition of the 20-foot wide every 40 feet, or
It's in condition number 1.
it
No,
is
it
condition
would be
number
a
1? Oh,
condition
okay, yep, you're
If
right.
they choose that first option there, I put 3 different options there, so,
Okay, so we don't need that.
thank you, Bill. Thank you. for
Okay,
asking.
is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, and it's actually to approve the rezoning that's before us this evening on this parcel. I'm gonna read the conditions in the record so everyone knows what it is. Number 1, facade massing shall be required along both the north and south sides of the new structure. Both facades shall incorporate one or more of the following every 40 feet upon each facade. Wall offsets of at least 2 feet in depth, each with a width of at least 20 feet, or significant material changes or significant architectural design features. Number 2, the ground-mounted sign shall be a monument sign with no reference to any specific car brand. The ground-mounted monument sign shall be no taller than 8 feet with a stone or masonry base. The base shall be landscaped with a 5-foot landscaping radius surrounding the sign. Number 3, relocation of trash enclosure for the car wash to be at least 25 feet from all property lines. Number 4, all references to specific auto brands, including Nissan, should be placed on the site. No references should be. Yep, okay. So those are the 4 conditions.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and second for approval. Mr. Peters, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Yes. Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, so our second public hearing tonight is case CZC 24-7, a minor modification to a final development plan and consent decree for Rumpke located at 3800 Struble. And Mr. Peters, do you have a presentation?
I do. So our third and final case tonight is CZC-24-7, 3800 Struble Road. It's just a minor modification to a consent decree final development plan. The parcel is listed on the screen and it's listed within your packet. This is within the SWD Solid Waste District. The applicant is Kyle Lawrence and the property owner is Rumpke. Excuse me. The applicant is requesting a minor amendment that will allow for the relocation of existing remote scale hut approximately 120 feet to the southwest in order to better accommodate Rumpke's Citizen Convenience Center customers, and that CCC was approved on July 18, 2023 by Colerain Township. This specific parcel is within the Solid Waste District of Colerain Township and is specifically governed by consent decree listed on the screen. As per condition 29, existing building and structure shall be permitted to remain within the EF, which is a former name of the district, until such time the area is redeveloped. Any modification of such buildings other than removal shall be considered an amendment to this consent decree and shall be reviewed and approved by the Township Zoning Commission. Because the building was relocated instead of being removed, that's why we're here tonight. Otherwise, it would have been an administrative modification. So I put a little flag by where the area where the scale house hut currently is and where it will be moved. And here's a map that was sent to me by Rumpke. The green is at the top is the Citizen Convenience Center called the CCC. At the bottom is, in the orange is the existing main scale house, and then we have the issues at hand. The black star is the current remote hut location, and then the yellow star is the proposed location for the scale hut. These maps aren't particularly helpful, in my opinion, as this map is, because it kind of shows you on the ground exactly where it's going to go. But these types of maps are included in your packet. Staff findings. Staff finds a minor modification for Rumpke substantially complies with the spirit and intent of Colerain Township's comprehensive plan and the requirements of the Colerain Township zoning resolution and number 29 within the consent decree. Staff recommends approval. Ms. McMullen?
Thank you. So at this time, we need a motion and a second to open our public hearing.
I motion we open the public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Peters?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Okay, so for the record, we didn't have anyone that is signed in. Yep, so if you want to go ahead and step to the podium. And did you get sworn in initially?
Not yet.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
And for the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Kyle Lawrence from Eastside Engineer, 10795 Hughes Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45251.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So obviously while we're here today, we want to relocate our 10 by 10 foot by 10 foot remote scale hut structure about 120 feet to the southwest, as you can see on the map. The purpose of this is to increase efficiency for our Citizens Convenience Center customers by providing them ease of access to customer service both on entry and on exit from the Citizens Convenience Center. Also adding a layer of safety by minimizing the potential for intersecting with the heavy industrial traffic that would go to our new scale house on the eastern side of the property. Take any questions if there are any.
Any questions, gentlemen? I just want to say, as someone who has gone to dump trash, this is much welcome for me.
Good, glad to hear it.
All right, thank you. And just to check in with the audience, anyone in the audience wish to speak? Nope. All right, then we need a second and a motion and a second to close our public hearing.
I motion we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. Upolen?
Yes. And is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I motion we approve the minor amendment to case number CZC 24-7 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Peters?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. Upolen?
Yes. Thank you. All right, so moving along on our agenda, there is no informal concept reviews, no old business, no new business, so that brings us to the administrative, and we have a review and discussion for Articles 5, 6, and 7 in the draft zoning resolution. So, Mr. Peters?
We do. Now, these are largely uncontroversial sections, and a lot of it has not changed. I'll say nonconformities, in my opinion, is largely unchanged. I read through it. I don't know that there's anything noteworthy to talk about. Nonconformities are generally from township to township pretty consistent, and ours are right in line with other townships. If you guys have any questions from the non-conformity section, which is Article 5, then I open the floor to discuss those before we move on to administration.
For Article 5, I did not have any. Anyone?
Okay. Article 6 was administration. Not a whole lot has changed in administration either. The plan development review that ZoneCo and KZF sent to us, they sent it in Article 2 or 3 where the zones are. I believe that needs to be removed to the administrative section. But there's nothing earth-shaking that has been placed within the administrative section. There will be a little bit more administrative latitude so that we don't have to bring someone to BZA over 2 square feet on a sign. But other than that, the only thing I can think of that I wanted to personally ask the commissioners is, would you like the Board of Zoning Appeals to hear use variances? Or would you like to do away with the idea of use variances? And let me explain. If somebody wants to open a bar in a R6, which would be an extreme example. So let's just go in a B1, and let's say it wasn't allowed in a B1, even though it is, because I can't think of a great example. Then they could go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and appeal and get a variance to be able to do that use there. The scary thing about use variances is that they last forever. So someone will always be able to do a bar there. And we just had a case similar to this recently. So I wanted to ask the commissioners their thoughts on whether or not use variances should continue to be able to be requested to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Some townships do it, some townships specifically do not.
Do we do it now? We obviously do it now?
We do it now.
And how many times a year does it happen, do you
It's
think?
half of our cases.
Half of the cases?
I believe so, yeah. It's half the ones I've heard. It's been about 10 this year. Someone wants to do something in a zone and it's prohibited, so we take them to Board of Zoning Appeals. It's got to be at least a third, so it's somewhere wedged within there.
And let me ask the FAR question. When it goes to the BZA, do they typically approve?
Yeah, but KZF ZoneCo actually recommended that we either don't allow them or we consider having restrictions on it.
And you said once it's approved, it lasts forever, and that lasts forever, even though a owner might change?
Yeah, they can sell it, the property can burn down and they rebuild, they can always do a bar there. Variances never have an expiration date. They used to grant variances. One time I saw a variance that was granted in the 90s here that was given a 7-year sunset clause, which is not actually real. They could still do whatever they got approved for that day.
So give us the pros and the cons of that, the issue going through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
The main con is that if I wanted to do a use and that wasn't within our zoning resolution, and I said, I'm sorry, you have no appeals process, you would go to I would go to the Court of Common Pleas, and generally the Court of Common Pleas, the first thing they say is, have you exhausted every appeals process that you possibly could? Well, if we prohibit you from being able to do a use variance, then their answer would be yes to that. But if not, they would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals first and get denied before they go to the Court of Common Pleas. So that would be a positive to keeping use variances around. A positive to getting rid of them, we decided we don't want bars in a B1, which isn't true, but for this example, for a reason. So why would we allow someone to have it and come up with some sort of hardship when we don't allow it to happen across the board?
Or a more realistic
Yeah.
would be another Phantom Fireworks wants to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good example.
They could go to the BZA and.
Yeah, if we allowed Phantom Fireworks in B2 only, and someone wanted to open one at Galbraith and Pippin, which is a B1, then they could go to BZA right now. The BZA is great. I have nothing bad to say about them, but they do tend to think use variances are a good idea. So they would grant the use variance, and the person would be allowed to have fireworks at that location forever.
Is it based off of hardships, or what's the reasoning for
Yeah,
it?
variance always has to be based off a hardship. Someone came in for an event center recently, and the BZA was tasked with making a list of what they could do. Weddings, funerals, church, like they had a list of like 20 things they're allowed to do there. It just seems really messy, and I want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah. My first thought is that zoning is not always perfect. And this would be an argument for keeping them. I can think of a few parcels and buildings, large and small, that are zoned R6 when they are clearly a commercial use. One is a strip mall.
Mhm.
It's significant.
Exactly, yep.
And so those use variances seemingly are needed in a situation like that. That we had, I think the zoning commission dealt with the rezoning of the individual residents whose house was zoned, I don't know, B1 or B2, when we had to change that to residential. And there's probably a few of those. I think in this go-round, we're going to try to find those and fix those ahead of time. But still, I don't have a strong opinion as to whether we need to get rid of them. My opinion is more based on the fact that it's difficult to be perfect with our zoning and cover every nuance. And so at times those variances, maybe they should be, more judiciously dished out, but.
Meaning not through BZA, but through the common pleas.
No, I think he means BZA should be a little bit more cautious of which use variances they give. And for the record, the BZA I asked them the same question. They do want to keep doing it. But I'm asking the zoning commission simply because our consultants recommended that we stop doing them.
I assume, just to try to, I'm sorry I'm asking this question, I should know it, but.
No problem.
Does the Board of Zoning Appeals give a notice to everyone within the 200 feet? So it's still a process where the public can weigh in and
Yes.
and talk about their concerns and thoughts. So we're not circumventing any citizen input by having a use variance.
No, not at all. And recently, it's public record, we had a case at the bar on Galbraith and, what was it? Galbraith and,
Galbraith.
by the old Aldi.
Galbraith and
Anyway,
Pippin.
Yeah, we had a
Yeah,
case
it's
where
almost
somebody
right
wanted,
there at Pippin.
right, he wanted to open a bar, and it wasn't a use variance because there was a 50-foot parking buffer requirement between him and residential. He didn't meet, so he was actually going for a standard variance. But
It wasn't a hardship.
right, a bunch of people showed up and they didn't want the bar, so it turned into a quasi-use variance case anyway. So that case would be able to move forward, but I wouldn't be able to say I want fireworks in R6 because I live in a weird parcel, so I'm going to go to the BZA. You would have to go straight to Court of Common Pleas.
But they still have that option of going to the court
Right.
after BZA if they're turned down.
But now, if you
That's-
got, but
that's
if you
the
got
first
rid
step.
of use variances, they would have to go right to court.
Right.
There
exactly.
is no local remedy, is what you guys are saying.
Yeah, the Court of Common Pleas, I've been told, always says, have you exhausted every appeals process the township offers? Their answer would be yes now.
Yeah.
So then if we said no to this, is there an associated cost for the township then? If half of the cases to BZA end up in court rather than the BZA, are we planning ahead for that decision?
That's a good question.
The legal
A
cost.
third to half would be, I want to amend, it's about a third to a half now that I sit here and think about it. Yeah, we would lose money on the people. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
To apply to the
So
board?
I tend to say it might be more of a decision for the trustees to weigh in on
Okay,
what they want and
okay.
see
And we
this
can
being-
certainly put it on the slide like this that we asked them, of one of the things that we want their feedback on. Because then, recall the next step is at August meeting, you guys are gonna vote. And there have been some changes made to other sections from what you've seen, just based on, we've had consulting with people and we're gonna go consult with some stakeholders within the township. Rumpke, Weiler, those kind of people. We're consulting with you. So you'll get a final copy for August meeting and you'll vote yes or no on it. And at that point, we will set up a meeting with the trustees where they would do the same. So this is the opportunity to hear and think about and give recommendations before you get a final draft. And by the way, you don't just vote straight yes or no. You can say yes with the condition that remove this section, add this, remove this. So,
Is this a way, could this be used as a way around, if I wanted, marijuana is now allowed in the state of Ohio. If I wanted to open a marijuana dispensary, could I go to my local grocery store that I operate and say, oh, I'm gonna start selling weed now?
I've added something within the administrative section in your packets where the BZA is not allowed to hear a use variance for a use that is prohibited in every zone, which
Okay.
is basically only medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, and massage parlors.
Yeah.
Do you guys like that?
Yeah, I guess I just don't, it's a jump ball and I don't know which way to in my opinion, I think having a remedy that folks can use seems appropriate. It almost sounds though, and I've never been to a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, so I don't know, but maybe it sounds like the hardships are pretty easily believed or taken into account. And maybe there's too many variances that are given, but I'm not on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and that is not my role to tell them one way or another. So I guess where I'm at is, I think we leave them. I would suggest leaving them, even though I understand that they don't make a lot of sense from someone who's reviewing our code as a code professional, but it sounds like they're used. It sounds like if you have a third or half of the BZA cases are use variances, there's some issue of why they're going there.
Yeah. And to be fair to the Board of Zoning Appeals, they get people coming up there crying, saying that this has been their dream all their life. And, at this board, we get people who want to open a new Starbucks, and it's a little bit different. But, so it is hard to say no when someone is up there. Like,
It is.
Right.
Human nature.
Yep. So on Article 6, since we were talking about that Page 94, and I can give this to you after the meeting. There is just a typo in, so 94H, number 1, for BZA, for quorum. It says
257.
page 90, oh, I'm sorry, page 94 of the agenda, 257 of the actual, thank you. So, H1, it says any combination of 3 regular members of, it should be the word or. So 3 regular members or 2 regular members and an alternate.
Okay, thank you.
And then jumping 2 pages farther, just a point of clarity, page 259, section 624. The title is zoning inspector / zoning administrator, but other than the first sentence in A, it all just talks about the zoning administrator. So I think that the zoning inspector piece is old and just needs to come out.
You'll see it in a lot of zoning resolutions where they have both. And actually, I believe it's one of the bylaws, BZA or zoning commission, it says zoning inspector through it. If we take it out, I don't think we'll lose anything, so
Okay.
go ahead and strike it. I think people understand that to be the same.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out as well.
Yep.
So we're gonna go ahead and move forward with use variances? So it sounds like.
My opinion. I've given you my opinion. I don't know what the
think we're
board's
all
is.
agreeing here. And we felt that way too. I just thought because the consultant recommended that, I wanted to get your opinion.
Yep.
Okay, so anything else in administration that anyone has any concerns or questions on? Ms. McMullen, we're still working on your sidewalk.
Yes, I have that written down to ask you.
We're certainly
The
working on
bushes and then
Yep.
Ivy on buildings,
Ivy,
power
okay.
lines, telephone poles.
We'll be in touch, regarding that prior to the next meeting.
Because it's hard to get some of these things cleaned up when it's not in the code.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our chance to put things in there that are gonna be great for the township moving forward.
Yep.
The things that are in the zoning resolution will just totally change the township in such a positive way, and I wanna make sure people are able to access the sidewalks.
Yep.
Okay, that moves us to definitions. Definitions aren't controversial in the real world usually, but is there anything that was seen within these definitions that people wanted worded a little bit differently?
No changes. I had one typo.
Okay,
Page 296, the site triangle, just the word site is misspelled.
is it SITE?
SIGLHT.
That's strange. Didn't see that one coming.
Yep.
But that's the only one I have for that section.
Did you have any thoughts on these articles, David?
No, I didn't. I didn't have it. We're good.
Ms. Gogul, did you have any thoughts? Ms. Westphal? Okay, anyone else? Okay, so the next step, you will get the final draft that you're gonna approve or deny. You can add any conditions you'd like. We will take that to the board. The board can add or remove anything they'd like, and then after that, they'll vote. And then we'll have a final copy, and this couple-year-long process will be over.
In the
I think about
definition,
5 year long.
yeah, in the definitions, you have a bunch of sign stuff
Yes.
scratched. That's coming out, correct?
Yeah, anything scratched will be coming out.
Very good. Nothing else was scratched, and that's the only place I've seen them.
Okay, yeah. There were a couple in an earlier draft, but I think we've got most of it at this point.
Awesome. So anything else on the zoning resolution for you?
If you have anything that you can think of over the next month, email me, we'll talk about it. This is the chance to really put it in there without having to go through the whole text amendment process. So be on the lookout for things that you want to see in this community to make it better.
And that goes not just for us, but any members of the community.
Anyone in the community
Okay.
can email me, reach out to me, talk about what you want to see in the community. I invite that in my job every day, and especially during this process. We've had a few meetings. We're gonna have a few more. Like I said, we're gonna meet with some stakeholders. There may be an opportunity for community engagement, but at the next meeting especially, we're gonna put it on social media for the public to come give their opinion on the final draft. So, yeah, I don't live here, so I want anyone who does live here to be able to have their voice heard. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you. So moving along, number 12, none. The next meeting at this point is scheduled for August 20th. So thank you to everyone in attendance and staff who was here tonight. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.